Hi, my name is Dr. Sarah Orr, and I'm here with Boys Town Pediatrics Newborn Expo, and I'm here to talk to you about what to do before baby arrives. So for the first thing I want to talk about is picking a pediatrician. So if you don't already have a pediatrician in mind, I recommend looking at pediatricians in your area or talking to friends and family and seeing if they have any recommendations. One thing you're going to want to do is decide what's really important to you in a pediatrician. For example, is location really important? Or what about availability? So what days of the week does your pediatrician work? Do they have after-hour calls? Do they have weekends, holiday appointments, evening appointments, things like that? And then once you've picked a pediatrician or found a couple that sound interesting to you or that might be good fits, I recommend setting up a meet and greet. This allows you to talk to the pediatrician and see if your personalities match and you communicate well. The next step is making sure that your home is ready for baby. So the first thing I always recommend is making sure that baby has a safe place to sleep in. This place is ideally somewhere in your room for at least the first 6 months of baby's life. And again, it doesn't have to be fancy, but baby does need their own space with at least 4 walls. Other things you're going to want to consider are diapers, wipes, seasonal appropriate clothing, especially since we're going into winter, as well as swaddles and blankets. You're also going to start to want to think about whether you want to breastfeed baby or formula feed, because these will also lead into other things such as bottles or pumps. Also, if you're going to formula feed, I always recommend having some amount of formula already at the house before baby arrives. But don't buy too early because formula does expire and does have an expiration date on it. The car seat is another thing you're going to want to have before baby arrives. Baby actually has to have that car seat before they're even allowed to leave the nursery, so it's a good option to buy it and have it all set up in your car before baby comes. You shouldn't need any medications for babies right away, but it is nice to have diaper ointment at home just in case. Also, if you're exclusively breastfeeding, we do recommend vitamin D drops, but you can get these over the counter or your pediatrician can prescribe them. So what about when you have pets or other children at home? The first thing you're going to want to consider is making sure you have a plan for who's taking care of them when you're going into labor and staying at the hospital. If you have pets, make sure to bring home a blanket that baby's used so that they can get used to that scent before actually bringing baby home. For your other kiddos, get them involved in getting ready for baby. So setting up that nursery, making sure they're getting excited and involved. If your kiddos are young, make sure we're reading lots of books about bringing new babies home so that they can at least start getting used to the concept of a baby being in the home. And then once your new baby's home, make sure that either your partner or yourself are spending at least an hour of alone, dedicated time with your other children. That way they feel included and seen. Also, don't forget to think about visitation. This includes both at the hospital and at home. So firstly, talk to your hospital and see what their visitation requirements are. With COVID, there hadn't been a lot of visitations, but most hospitals are starting to open up, but every hospital might have their own rules about visitation. Also, things you're going to want to consider for visitation is who you're going to allow to visit, how often people are allowed to visit, how long they're allowed to stay, whether or not they're allowed to bring children with them. And it's perfectly okay if you just say no visitors, please, both in the hospital and when you get home for a while. That is completely okay. You're also allowed to have boundaries and expectations with your visitors. So if you want your visitors vaccinated, then they need to be vaccinated. If you want them to wear a mask when they see baby, then they need to wear a mask. Also, don't forget to build your village. Make sure that you have the contact information for both your doctor as well as your pediatrician written down and ready to go. That way, if you ever have any questions, you know where to ask them. Also, look at different lactation consultants in the area in case you need any breastfeeding assistance. Sometimes different pediatricians' office may actually have a lactation consultant on staff as well. Other things you're going to want to do is talk to friends and family. See who may be available to come over and give you a break periodically. Or sometimes you're just going to want to talk to an adult and see if someone's available just to come sit with you for a while so you can have an adult conversation and not one with a newborn. And remember to divide and conquer. So your partner is there to help. So before baby comes, make sure you're discussing what your roles are going to be. One of the things that's going to dictate this is how you're going to feed baby. So if your baby is going to be formula fed, then make sure you're giving dad some of those feeds throughout the day. It's a great bonding experience, and it also takes some stuff off of mom's plate. If mom's breastfeeding, of course, she's going to take the majority of those feeds, in which case your partner is likely going to need to pick up some stuff at home, whether it's with the other children or just laundry and dishes and cleaning the house. Also, take as much off of your guys' plate as possible before baby arrives. So making sure that you have meals stored in the freezer, and also don't forget to register for things like gift cards for cleaning services. Anything that takes those kind of household things away for at least the first couple of weeks and allows you to focus on baby, getting situated in your new life, and just bonding with your family. Also, talk to your partner about the signs of postpartum depression. So these can include things like appetite changes, extreme mood swings, excessive worry, sadness, hopelessness, or thoughts of hurting yourself or your baby. It's important that you and your partner both know the signs and make sure that you're both looking for them. That way your partner can help advocate for you if you're not feeling well. And the last thing we like to talk about are hospital bag and nursery essentials. So if you go online, there are lists and lists of things that people recommend you put into your hospital bag when going into labor. But here are some essentials that first-time moms have recommended to me. One is making sure you have a laboring gown or some type of robe that you can change into after baby's delivered. They said it made them feel just more comfortable while staying in the hospital and gave them pretty good access for still wanting to breastfeed. Another one is 6-month maternity clothes. So the clothes you come into the hospital wearing are not necessarily going to fit you when you leave the hospital. So making sure that you have some 6-month or smaller maternity clothes to wear when you leave will also make you feel more comfortable. Also, especially if you're going to formula feed, make sure that you bring a bottle brush. So most hospitals will give you formula, they will give you a pump if you need it, and bottles, but they don't always provide the bottle brush, so that's nice to have in your bag with you. Some things for the nursery that they recommended was a changing table at counter height. Especially if you've had a C-section, bending over can be really hard in those first 2 weeks, so the fact that you can change baby at counter height is really, really helpful. Some other things you're going to want to think about are having a monitor in the room. It doesn't have to be fancy and it doesn't have to have a screen, but just the audio in general can help ease your worries, especially when you can't have eyes on baby. Another one is night lights, and this is really helpful for those nighttime feeds and trying to change diapers in the dark. And then lastly is a nose sucker. So in the hospital, they will give you a bulb to help suction out baby's nose if they're congested, but a lot of moms really like the Nose Frida or the generic types that you can find at other pharmacies. And so that was a large recommendation from a lot of moms I've talked to. Well, I hope this has been helpful. And remember, your pediatrician is there to answer any questions you have, whether baby is here yet or not. So feel free to always give them a call if you have a question. And thank you again for watching Boys Town Pediatrics Newborn Expo.